Hello, Tusoka family. Welcome to Two Sisters of a Certain Age Conversations with a Therapist and a Doctor. I'm your co host, Judy Grant, licensed marriage and family therapist.
I'm your other co-host, Dr. Sophia Grant, board certified pediatrician and board certified child abuse pediatrician.
As always, we're thrilled to have you with us, and we've got some pretty cool stuff to talk about today.
Today, I am thrilled to have, first of all, a fellow Jamaican as our guest.
Absolutely.
And I'd like to introduce you to Dr. Nadeen White. She's also a board certified pediatrician. We met when we were in the trenches at Georgetown, and I think we bonded over that trauma. And Nadine is a nocturnist, meaning she stays in the hospital and she sees patients at night. And in the day, she is an award-winning
Oh,
lifestyle blogger dealing with wine and food and travel. And she's all over the internet.
Hmm.
Uh, as The Sophisticated Life, and she just got back from where, Nadine?
from Morocco.
Can
Yes.
you tell us a
Madagascar.
little
9
bit
days.
about that trip? It seemed epic, and I was really jealous watching you guys when you were there.
Agreed.
Uh,
Agreed. Me too. Me too.
well, thank you for having me. As Sophia said, we met back in like 1996, I believe, at
Yeah.
Georgetown. So yes, thank you for having me. And we got spent 9 days in Morocco, June 1st to June 10th. That was my first official group trip for the Sophisticated Life.
Mhm.
So there were 17 of us traveling to 5 cities over nine
Wow.
days. It was epic. It was epic. We went from Casablanca, Fez, Marrakesh, the Atlas Mountains, and spent some time overnight in the Sahara, glamping there. So, yes, for me to take 16 people through 5 cities in Morocco for my first, it's Culinary Travels is the name of the subset of my brand that's going to be doing food and wine trips globally.
Uh-huh.
So that was, yeah, pretty epic for my first trip.
All right.
Wow.
So, we want to know. I mean, we want to approach everything from the kind of mental and
Yes.
medical standpoint. How do you, I mean, not just Morocco, but how do you prepare for a trip like that from the medical standpoint? I mean, what do you
Yes.
do when you map stuff out?
Right. So, I mean, safety is always important, obviously, and I always tell people to research where they're going. But from a medical standpoint, there's certain things that you should always bring with you. First aid kit, your medications, especially people who have chronic illnesses. Definitely not just bring your medications, but bring extra in case you get stuck in that location.
Right.
It's preferable to bring medications in the actual bottles that they are in. Just, certain countries will look at you crazy if you just have a bag of pills.
Mm-hmm.
So, normally people may do like the 7-day containers, but for some countries, it is good to keep them in the actual bottles. But yeah, definitely a first aid kit. Definitely always have Benadryl. For certain countries, it's good to bring things like Cipro for travelers
Right.
diarrhea. And so I do always suggest that. And Zofran, some people had for, nausea and vomiting. We did
Right.
have one of our travelers that did have vomiting and diarrhea towards the end.
Mhm.
And we did have Zofran and Cipro to give her. So I don't think she ever took the Cipro, but the Zofran was very helpful. So yeah, it's always good to be prepared for, the common illnesses that you can get when you're traveling. So I do recommend that, and bringing all your chronic medications for your chronic illnesses with you.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And
Mm-hmm.
there were a lot of doctors on that trip.
Yes,
So,
there were.
you
So as
know,
a physician, obviously I have a big network of physicians that, follow me. So there was 6 physicians, I believe. There was like
mhm.
5 Jamaicans. There were 2 other people that were in healthcare. So yes, I tell people when they travel with me, I am a pediatrician, but obviously as a physician, I know basic things like if you have
Right.
allergic reactions, travel is
Mhm.
diarrhea, things like that. So, I think that, will give people a certain comfort that when you travel with me, I know like the major things that could happen. So yes,
Yeah,
you're kind of covered that way.
yeah, that is a real selling feature for sure. Because
Right.
I think we all think about it. Like when you're packing, it's like, do you have the Imodium? Who's got the Pepto? Who has the
Yes,
Advil? Because you need
exactly.
to you hope you never need those things, but you need to be prepared in the event that you do.
Right.
Absolutely.
I was getting ready to go on a trip and I was buying all those kind of emergency medications and the pharmacist kind of checking me out said, "Are you traveling?" I said,
Yes.
"Ouchie, yes," because I had
Yes.
all those medications. Now, you mentioned that some countries uh will look at you crazy if you just have your pills in a bottle. What are those countries that have those
Well,
restrictions?
yes, I would say Muslim countries would be,
Mm,
the most scrutinous
mhm,
about that because they may think that you're coming to like sell drugs. Some
Right.
right.
medications like narcotics may not be legal, in those countries. So, you just want to make sure that you have them in the bottle that to say these are prescription medications, that you're not
Right.
coming to sell, narcotics in their country, if it's illegal. And you can always go to the State Department,
Exactly.
department.gov and look to see what's legal, what's not legal in the countries that you're traveling to. I always tell people to check that before you travel to certain countries. But I think those would be Muslim countries are the most strict, I would say, in terms of bringing medications into their countries. So yeah,
Is
Nadine,
just something to
look,
check
I have a
for.
question.
Yes.
When you're preparing for travel, there's always that option, like if you want insurance, like
Oh,
that medical
absolutely.
insurance option. Do you recommend investing in that? I don't
Yes.
even know what that offers. Can you explain that to us?
Oh, absolutely. So I would say, so before when I would travel, maybe sporadically internationally, I would get travel insurance for just that particular trip. So like World Nomads is a great place to go if you're their website, if you're just doing maybe one or two international trips. Things that you want to look out for definitely is medical evacuation. You want coverage for that because if you
right.
get sick, somewhere internationally and it's very expensive. I think it's something like maybe $50,000 to get transported back to the US.
Right,
So you
right.
definitely want medical coverage, you want medical evacuation coverage. So if you're not doing a lot of international travel and you just want a one-off, then that there's companies that you can look for. They have adventure coverage too, so if you're one of those people that do adventure
Bungee jumping.
travel,
Uh-huh, yeah.
bungee
Hmm.
jumping,
That
Hmm.
things like that,
that
then you
that
can
type
get
of
extra
foolishness.
coverage.
Mhm.
Because there's people I know who have broken their legs
I
doing
know.
that. Yeah. So, but I would say if you do at least 4 international trips a year, then you want
Hmm.
to get annual travel insurance. This
Oh,
way, you don't even have to think about when you're getting on that plane,
Right.
or even with your spouse. I have couples annual travel insurance through Alliance. Alliance is really, I guess, how you say it. And so I don't even have to think about it when I'm traveling, internationally because I know I'm covered. The
right.
next step of that travel insurance is cancel for any reason. That became popular during COVID
Right.
because the travel insurances didn't cover COVID. So
Right.
people
Right.
were like, "Oh, I have travel insurance," but no, they didn't cover if you got COVID and you had to cancel.
Right.
So travel for cancel for any reason is what you want to now look for with your travel insurance is to see if you have that
Hmm.
clause.
Hmm.
So that would be, you change your mind, you can't get off work, things like that, then you can just cancel for any reason. And there's a lot of group travel companies that require you to have travel insurance.
Right.
So when you're, signing up for a lot of these group trips, then for instance, for me, I will require travel insurance.
Right.
I may not require you to have the cancel for any reason, but there are some group companies that do require you to even have that cancel for any reason. So yes, it's very important and it's worth the investment. If again you do 4 or more international trips a year, then it's worth the
Right.
investment. Now, some credit cards do check with your credit card companies also,
Mm.
because some credit cards do have travel insurance as part of your credit card coverage.
Oh.
So yeah, check with your credit cards, especially Amex
Eh,
has a lot of coverage for that
So would you have to book your trip with that same credit card to get the
to get the
insurance?
trap right. Yes.
Okay. All
So
right.
yeah.
Okay, now another question. I mean, I have a certain kind of ritual I do when I travel on an airplane. I like first of all, I wear a mask now. I take
Yes,
I take aspirin, baby aspirin before just to prevent
our
blood
long
clots.
flights.
I know it's over
Right.
the top. I don't know if it's over the
No,
top,
it's not.
but I wear compression socks.
Right.
Are
Right.
there is there anything that you do or you recommend when you travel, just kind of for the transportation to where you're gonna go?
Sure. So I still recommend masks. I do still wipe down my seats and the tables because
Right,
I think to myself, I can't believe we didn't do that before. Like, because
right.
they're gross.
Right,
I
right.
mean,
Yeah.
Hmm.
but I will say that a couple of times, unfortunately, this sounds terrible, but I've been in economy lately with Delta just because the flights have been so
So
full.
expensive.
And
Mhm.
it's so expensive and so full. But if you sit in the back of Delta flights, and then when you're getting off, you will actually see the people coming on to clean the Delta planes. Like
Right,
they are
right,
coming on. So I do realize that at least with Delta, they do actually pull down the trays and they clean them. But I
mhm,
still clean my seats. And then, so if you have a risk in your family of blood clots, definitely, I would say if you're doing any long haul flight, 6 hours or longer, you can take the baby aspirin. In terms of compression socks, usually I would say if it's 8 hours or longer, then it's good to wear the compression socks. It's definitely good for flights that long to get up and walk around at least twice
right,
during the flight. You
right.
know, my husband, he does not ever have to use the bathroom, so he'll fall asleep and just be on a 10-hour flight and not move. If you're one of those people, definitely wear the compression socks
Mhm.
to prevent like DVTs, deep vein thrombosis. So I think the family history is important, like I said, in terms of the baby aspirin. If you're on birth control pills, if
Yep.
you're overweight, if you have a family history of strokes, blood clots, anything like that,
Mm.
then I think the baby aspirin is a good idea. And definitely having the compression socks. Stay hydrated, drink a lot, which will make you have to go to the bathroom. So then
Right.
you'll have to get up and walk around. So that all works. And so, yes, and that's for even if you have long car rides, long train rides, bus rides. It's good to do all of that too, besides just on the airplane.
Hmm.
Yeah, I always get an aisle seat just because I don't wanna have to
Me
be like,
too. Me too.
excuse me," stepping over people and having people be
Yes,
annoyed. Because
I'm
as a
that way
woman of
too.
a certain age, my bladder is kinda spastic and, you know, doesn't hold as much as it used to.
That's
And you
me.
and you always I mean, and it kinda don't wanna have to get up to go to that little bathroom, but you
Hmm.
really need to drink that water. You really
Yes,
have to
stay
drink the water.
hydrated.
Yeah,
Especially if you're drinking like alcohol on the plane, just follow that up with drinking the water,
mhm.
Right.
as well. So, and if you have like a layover, walk and you have to get off the plane, walk around a bit. Yeah, hydration is really important on those long haul flights for sure. So, highly recommend.
So clearly, there is a lot more involved than simply buying your ticket and getting on
Ticket,
that plane.
yes, yes,
It's,
preparation is key.
preparation is key, even down to how to pack the bag, it
And
and
yes,
and make it efficient and effective. Instead of taking larger bags, you can just try to compress to one.
Right,
Um,
well, I will have to say, Nadine is team check your bag.
I
She
am.
she wants to have 17 outfits per day, and I am
But you know
team
what it is?
carry on.
I am just not a good packer. That's what it
Mhm,
is. Like I'm getting better. In
mhm,
Morocco, I think I had just one outfit left. So I'm getting better at packing. Usually what happens is I don't pack till like the night or the morning of. So I'm just
mhm,
like throwing stuff in. And if you do that, then you just have to check a bag. But I will say for the carry-on, because this came up in Morocco, someone didn't get their bags. And I know that's happening more and
mhm,
more.
yeah,
So
mhm.
I will tell people put everything that's important to you. I keep my medications in my carry-on, so you
yeah.
want to keep that in your carry-on. Definitely bring like extra underwear, change of clothes, because he did not have any of that.
Oh
And
my
his bag
gosh.
was stuck in a city that we were not in. His bag was
Right,
4 hours away. And he actually had to get a car service and go back to that
oh,
airport 4 hours away, and
Oh
then
my
4 hours
gosh.
back to where we were to get his bag. So
Right.
have a change of clothes, underwear, your most
right,
important, valuables, your medications. I always take that in my carry-on in case your bags now are just like not showing up.
right.
So that's important to have in your carry-on. But yeah, I unless it's like a 3-day weekend, I'm checking a bag.
Right. Right.
I will admit that. I will admit that. I just can't
Well,
do it.
one thing I hate walking through the airport with so much
Me
stuff.
too. Me too. And then trying to
Yeah.
lift the bag up to put it up on the thing.
Yeah.
I can't. I can't be
Yeah.
bothered. And get air tags. Air tags. This way you can track
Yes.
your bags. Yes. I've been using air tags lately. So I do
Yeah.
recommend those also. Yep.
Yeah. I have heard that from a number of people, so that will be
Yes.
something that we do. So Candy and
Yes.
I have a trip coming up in August
Ah,
as we head to Cuba.
Yep.
yes.
Um,
Love
is
Cuba. Ooh.
okay. So what do we need to prepare for in terms of Cuba since you've been and you have that
Yes.
knowledge?
Yes. So for Cuba, get ready to like the Wi-Fi is the biggest issue. Well,
Mhm.
one of the biggest issues. So you can buy Wi-Fi cards there.
Oh, really?
So
Okay.
yeah. hmm
Okay.
So there's Wi-Fi spots depending on where you're staying. So you'll have the Wi-Fi card, and you can like you'll be buying a lot of those. Or like the major hotels there, you may be able to like pick up Wi-Fi at those
Mhm.
places. So
Mhm.
that's one of the things. Don't expect to just be able to like keep in touch with people in the US all the time.
Right.
So you have to kind of get used to that. That was a big thing for us. The money is another thing.
Mhm.
So you'll go to the bank or your hotel may be able to change US or Euro for you into their local currency. We had a bill that had like the smallest slit in it. When I say like barely visible, and they would not change it. Like they would not change that. It
Oh,
was like $100 bill. So it was like a big deal in terms of our budget there.
Mhm.
right.
And they wouldn't change it. Finally, our hotel changed it for us. So definitely have a huge extra amount of money because that you can't like get money there, in
Mhm.
Cuba. So just bring a whole lot of extra money because you'll be changing it into their local currency. They don't take
Right.
US money, they don't take our credit cards. So that's like
Oh,
the two
that's
major
really good to
things.
know.
Mhm.
Yeah, the Wi-Fi and the money just bring a lot of extra cash, because credit cards don't work there. They're not going to take US money.
Right.
So those are the two major things to prepare for there. But you're going to love Cuba, the energy, the music, the people. They want US tourists. Like they're
Mhm.
Mhm.
excited to meet people from the US and talk about the history between the two countries, and absolutely loved it. It's still like one of our top trips that we've been on.
Wow.
So, but
So
yeah, prepare for those two things.
Thank
so
you.
what has been your least favorite place?
Um, that's tough because I just love to travel and meet people, but Athens I did not enjoy, I will
Really?
say. Yeah,
Mhm.
the Acropolis was amazing, but the city itself, yeah, the people weren't that friendly to me.
Mhm.
Now, I went in 2010, so
Mhm.
keep that in mind. I went a long time ago, but I loved the islands. I loved Santorini. I loved Greece,
Mhm.
but the city itself of Athens was didn't do much for me. And surprisingly, not that I didn't like it, but Sydney and Melbourne, we went to Australia. It felt too much like the US. Like I
Mhm.
didn't
Mhm.
feel
Yeah.
like,
Mhm.
when
Yeah.
you travel, you want to go someplace that feels a little different,
Right.
Right.
I we felt like we were in the US most of the time. And now I didn't get to go to the Outback. So I want to go back to the Australia and go, to the Outback and the Great Barrier Reef and so forth. But if you're in the cities of Sydney and Melbourne, I could have just been in the US. It felt like at one point I was like on Venice Beach,
Uh-huh.
Oh.
and
Mhm.
yeah, so it didn't feel different enough. So it wasn't that I didn't like it, but yeah, I tell people that. So we went to New Zealand. New Zealand was beautiful. And I
Mhm.
wish we had spent more time maybe in New Zealand than
Right.
Mhm.
Australia.
Mhm.
So I
Right.
plan to go back. It wasn't the flight, you lose like a whole day and a half going there. So that
Right.
was also like
Right.
crazy.
Right.
Like, oh my
Mhm.
gosh. But the flight wasn't bad. I mean, we flew nonstop from LA to Sydney. And
Mhm.
I mean, if you've been to like Dubai or Asia, it's like the same time,
It's
or
not a
South
big
Africa, it's like
deal.
the same time. Yeah. So,
Mhm.
so I definitely want to go back and see more of the country. But yeah, Athens and Australia were just kind of like, eh. But everywhere else I've been, I've taken away great, great memories and felt, culturally and everything, enriched from. So,
Australia isn't high on my bucket list because they
mm.
they have too many things that can kill you, you
Too many
know?
Well, we didn't
snakes.
run
Too
into
many
those.
snakes.
The
We didn't run
snakes.
into those,
The
surprisingly. And then we went,
snakes. The sea snakes. Sea snakes.
people
Like
always say that, but
poisonous sea snakes.
they
And then
do. And we
the
did go out into the
jellyfish
country.
and the sharks. And then I've seen these lizards that are the sizes of crocodiles. And spiders as big
Yeah.
as your head. I mean, it's just damn.
People always talk about that. And we went to Hunter Valley, which is like the oldest wine region. So we went into like the country for that. The Great Ocean Road in Melbourne was amazing. So we went out like to the beaches, but we didn't really encounter that. We saw tons of kangaroo, of course. We
Hmm.
saw koala bears like high up in the trees. But
Hmm.
thank
Hmm.
goodness we did not run into. When we were driving, they pointed out one or two things, but we didn't, thank goodness, run into anything that was poisonous on our travels. So yeah, but
Now,
there was some parts that were like I said, the Great Ocean Road was amazing,
mhm.
amazing. But just
Wow.
in general, it just
Now,
felt like
is that like
U.S.
Hawaii, the road to Hana, where you're just driving and you see cool stuff on the way?
Yes, it
Okay,
was. It
okay,
was.
all
Yes,
right.
it was like a 13-hour day. Yeah, so it was
Okay.
Wow.
similar to that. Yep,
Now,
absolutely.
I have a question. I mean, you love to travel, but it's
Yes.
also your business. Is travel work for you? Like
So
how do you relax when you're traveling? I mean, you just did this trip to Morocco. It's
right.
the first time you've been, but you're also trying to make how do you balance that?
Yeah, so not all my trips are work. So, when we went to Hawaii recently, that was just leisure. So
Mhm.
it's like a combination. Some of my travel is leisure, some of it is for work. So even though in Morocco I was working, making sure everybody was having a good time,
Hmm.
I
Hmm.
still got to enjoy the trip because I was in
Mhm.
Morocco. So I think, even when I go on press trips for my blog and I'm, creating content when I come back, it's still amazing to me because I'm going to places most of the time that I've never been,
Right. Right.
experiencing, new cultures, new food. So I still enjoy it even when it's work. Yeah, no, it's still a good time for me. I'm meeting new people. Like on the trip, I got to meet new people and
Mhm.
see all the new connections being made. So it still doesn't. It's work that I enjoy, I guess.
Mhm.
Yeah, I put it that way.
So
So,
you're the definition of when they say do what you love and it doesn't feel like
Yes,
work.
mhm.
that's
Judy,
exactly
what were
right.
you gonna
Yes,
say?
Well, I was going to ask, okay, so you're a physician.
yes.
Where did this love of travel come from? Or was it always there and you were always trying to find an outlet for it? And how do you balance being a
Right.
physician and, the sophisticated life and culinary travels?
Right. So my mother was a world traveler. I still haven't been to all the places she went to. So I did
Mhm.
grow up with
Mm.
that in my life. So my mom used to go to all these different countries. She would bring back dolls for me from places. She would bring back, like, I was in middle school and I had a Louis Vuitton bag. I didn't even realize the significance of that. But she went to Italy and she brought back a Louis Vuitton bag that I
Mhm.
was wearing in middle school. So, I mean, that was
Oh
a
my
huge influence.
gosh.
Yeah,
And
that's
there's a 50-something-year-old woman said, and there was this girl named Nadine, and she brought a Louis to 6th grade.
it's great. And they made fun of me. I mean, I definitely got made fun of in different ways, and I didn't know why. But I mean, my great aunt and uncle owned a travel agency in Brooklyn,
Oh,
so she
Okay.
okay.
traveled with them initially, and then after that, her and her friends just loved to travel. They would cruise if there was a cruise going somewhere, they found a way to go on it. So that was my first influence, and then
Hmm.
after residency, I just wanted to really travel. I felt like I had missed out on so much because my mom
Yeah.
and her friends were going places I couldn't go because I was in training, and so I started kind of traveling after that. And I didn't even know I was starting a blog per se, but I just wanted to start sharing with people places I had been, things that they could do, like going to Broadway and seeing shows and,
Mhm.
going to
Hmm.
different places and inspiring people like you can go here and go to Paris and then go to Champagne. And, I went to Atlanta and people were like, you're blogging and you can get perks from that, from doing this and that. And I'm like, oh, really? And so that's when it kind of became like a business when I realized,
Wow.
I could not get paid necessarily, but I could go places for free and then write about it and post about it.
Right.
And in terms of balancing, I'm lucky in the fact that I do shift work at night. So I automatically would have just like long stretches of time off, like long
Mm-hmm.
weekends or 5 days off. And that's when I would like fit travel in during
Right.
those times that I would have off. And so it does get tiring because then I don't have just time off because
Right.
traveling here, working here, traveling. I went to a cookout with my husband yesterday and I was like, wow, this is like the first thing I've done all summer in Atlanta. Because
Mm.
Mm-hmm.
usually if I'm home, I'm either working or just so exhausted that I'm just resting before the
Right.
next day, you know?
Right.
So I haven't really done much in Atlanta. There's so much in Atlanta I haven't done because, like I said, I'm either working or traveling or resting for the next work shift or
Yeah.
travel. So it is a huge balancing act, and I never give myself the chance to rest because it's like churning. My brain is always churning. Like
Sure.
I got back from Morocco and I'm like, I got to start planning 2024 trips. So like this past
Wow.
week, I had meetings for 2024. So it's a
Wow.
disease. It
It's a
is. It's so it's a disease.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm always.
Yeah. Nadine says, I'm so tired. I'm like, you kind of overschedule yourself,
I
babe.
do. I
Yeah.
do. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So it's something I'm trying to work on. I'm constantly trying to work on to just give
Right.
myself time to rest. But yeah, it is rough. It is rough. I don't wish this on anyone.
No.
It sounds like you are the ideal candidate for a staycation. Just
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. But
be
she
in your
does
neighborhood.
those. She does those. What do you do for a staycation?
So sometimes I have stay in a hotel here. Like I get
Mm.
offers for local hotels where they want me to. I had one recently, and I just didn't have the time to fit it in. But I will stay
Mm.
in hotels here in Atlanta to check them out, and so that's sometimes what I do for a staycation. Because if I'm home, I will not get off the computer. I will
Right.
Mhm.
be on the
Right.
computer. So that is fun when I get to check out local
Mm-hmm.
hotels and see
Mm-hmm.
what's
Mhm.
going on here. So yeah, I do those as well.
Okay. So, as we were, thinking of having you on, I'm thinking about the mental health impacts of
Yes,
travel.
yes,
And what
yes.
I see is there are a lot of positives, but there are also a lot of mental health negatives
Mm,
with travel. And one of the things is, in regards to like the more negative things, would be
mm.
the anxiety.
Yep.
The
Yes,
anxiety that you have
yes,
about going somewhere brand new.
Yeah.
You've never been here.
yes,
Yeah.
What's going to happen? What's to expect? What do you need to bring? All of those questions that
right.
like also fuel the excitement. But for some
Yeah,
people, travel is not something that they consider because of
of
these
the
other,
anxiety.
yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
yeah. And so for me, people are surprised, first of all, that I have a fear of flying.
Yeah.
I had a horrible flight once and I didn't fly for 2 years.
Mhm.
And
Hmm.
I still don't like it. I still don't like, yeah, I'm gonna get on a 15-hour flight. No, I still have anxiety around that. It's gotten better. So I talk to a lot of people about that and try to help get over that fear. But I do meet someone who just booked my trip actually to Italy told me she's, single and she likes to travel, but she never has anyone to travel with. And
Yeah.
so
Hmm.
she thought this was a great way to travel because she gets to go with a group and
Mhm.
meet new
Hmm.
people because there's always a push on social media like, oh, don't wait for your friends, just solo travel, just go to the place by yourself. But there's a lot of people that don't feel comfortable just
Right.
going
Right.
to Europe by themselves or going to Africa by themselves,
Especially as a woman. Yeah.
Right, right.
especially as a woman. I
Hmm.
would not
Hmm.
recommend like Fez in Morocco. I could never imagine a woman being there by themselves. We were with men and we were still being harassed in the souks in Fez. It was
Mhm.
it was rough. That
Mm,
that was rough. So yes, there's a lot of anxiety around that. And so I think it's like for group travel for people like that, that will help because they're with other people. And so
right,
yes, you're right. I have friends who it does provoke anxiety, just the thought of going to a new country.
right.
For me, I'm at the point that I will go like anywhere, like, especially like for press trips. I got invited to Istanbul and I'm like, sure. I didn't know who I was going with, but
Mhm.
I'm like, it's Istanbul. Let's go.
Right.
Right, right,
Um, but for me with this group travel, I really understand that people are going that have maybe not traveled much. They're going for that comfort. and I love that because I can talk to people about travel. For me, travel has like almost saved my life. You know, I started the blog at a time that I was really low. There was a real low point in my life, and so travel like kind of saved me being able
Mm,
to get
mhm.
out there. And I had always had a trip planned because that was like what I had to look forward
Right.
to
Right, right.
do for myself. And so I welcome people who may have that anxiety, and I talk to them and I show them what we like do on our group trips. Because even before Morocco, Sophia will tell you, I've always planned trips. I'm the person who plans trips for my family,
Right.
friends. You know, I'm always
Mhm.
planning get-togethers. I run a book club, so I love building community in that way. So, yeah, I think travel is just transformative
Yeah,
for people, and so yeah, you know, it's great to be able to offer this for people who may be anxious about going places by themselves,
yeah.
that they get to
Mhm.
meet new friends and go on these group
Right.
trips. So
Yeah.
yeah,
I've
and
always
and I plan everything, so it's like you just have to pay your money
You just
right,
show up.
just show
and
up.
just
Show
show
up.
up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, I firmly believe that travel is the best education we can give ourselves to
It's
go
true.
out into the world and experience different cultures, different people, different
Yes.
foods, music, etc. You come back with a new perspective. Like
Right.
Absolutely.
it shifts what you thought you believed, and now
Hmm.
your world is more
Hmm.
opened.
Right.
And I
Yes.
remember my eldest daughter, she loves to travel. Um, and she what I find when she goes on these trips, and she's traveled with her aunt, um, like the self-confidence that comes from that,
Yes,
and the
absolutely.
empowerment, like, I can do this, and I can
Mhm.
go into this foreign
Hmm.
country, and
Yes,
I can survive and thrive. I think there's this
absolutely.
whole piece where it really just empowers you to know that
Absolutely.
you can do this, and you can
Yes.
find your way to that hotel or to that island, and you
Hmm.
can read the ferry schedule, and you can figure it out,
Yes,
you
Right.
know?
absolutely. Yes. And still does that. I force myself to go on solo trips still. I mean, I travel with my family, I do press trips for the blog, but I still do solo travel because for that exact reason. Because
Mhm,
sometimes I've gotten lazy going, like, say, on trips with my husband because he'll like pull the bags, he'll do the stuff in the car with the directions, he'll do certain
Mhm.
things. And I still want to do the solo trips to feel that independence, to feel
mhm,
like I can still do all the things, you know?
Right.
right,
And not only that, but I get time to myself to like just
Right.
recoup, do, you know, just get up and do the things I want to do and not have to worry about anyone else and just recenter myself. And so, yeah, I do at least one a year where I'm
mhm,
just
Mhm.
going by myself and really, my first solo trip was to Northern California and I did like an
Yeah.
eat, pray,
Eat,
love
pray,
trip.
love. Yeah.
right,
Yeah, in
mhm,
2011. And again, just for all the reasons you just mentioned of your daughter, that's what I
right,
got from that. And so, yeah, at least once a year, I just take off someplace by myself and just like woosah and, you know, get that independence back and
right,
just really recenter myself. So, yeah, it's great. I
yeah,
Um,
definitely recommend for people.
one thing that you need to do, whether you travel solo or in groups, is share your itinerary with the loved ones back
Yes,
home.
mhm,
That's
absolutely.
super important so people know where
Yes,
you are.
yes.
You
The
can
safety.
also, yeah, you can also share your location on
absolutely,
your phone.
Mm,
And then
yes.
another travel tip, this is what I need for my mental health, is I cannot come back from a trip on a Sunday and go to work Monday. It just
Right,
the
right.
the
I can't either.
reentry is so traumatizing.
it's
Yeah.
depressing.
I know. So, and then you're just like, "Oh God, I have to be back at work." So I
And you're
will come.
falling asleep, like,
Yeah, I'll come home like on a Thursday and go back to work on Monday. So you need to kind of build that in so you can go over your mail, do your laundry,
that's
pick up
Mhm,
the
me.
dog at the borders and, do all of that stuff. So, and that is because, you want to squeeze every minute into vacationing and to traveling.
Right.
You need to know some people can do it,
Yeah, I
but
have friends who do it. They get in Sunday night at midnight and go to work Monday. I'm like
no,
you. I
no,
cannot.
yeah,
I
I
can't
cannot.
I can't do it, and but the thing is you
Mhm.
have to know yourself. So
Yes.
that is
right.
Yes.
one travel rule that I have employed. Judy, do you have
Mhm.
any personal travel rules?
Personal travel rules. I'm thinking safety, and I'm
Mhm.
thinking I love my crossbody bag. And
Mm-hmm.
because it's not something, and we need to be mindful. We need to be thinking safety. We need to be
Mm-hmm.
hyper vigilant, know who's around us, and be
Yes.
cautious. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and so I think of theft. I think
Right.
of
Yes.
pickpockets. And
Right.
so I
Mm-hmm.
love my crossbody bag. It's right here. Nobody's going to be able to
Mm-hmm.
snatch that off of me, as opposed to a loose bag hanging over a
Yeah.
shoulder that someone could easily grab. So
Right.
that is
Absolutely.
something that I always think about. And
Mm-hmm.
I just I want to have this experience without having to stress over, oh my
Yes.
gosh, my wallet was stolen. What am I going to
Right.
do? How am I going to get around? My
Mm-hmm.
passport's missing. I don't want
Yes.
any of that. So I try to be hyper vigilant about like keeping myself safe
Yes.
and making sure that all of my documents are on my person.
Right.
Yeah. Crossbody bag. That's what I use. Always have it on. I always have it in the front. And
Yep.
yeah, and like Sophia said, sharing your itinerary, having a picture of your passport.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Hmm.
So have that on your phone or in your email and sending that to somebody also back home.
Mm-hmm.
We use the safe usually in the hotels, and that's where we put our passport and like any major credit cards. The thing is, especially if you're jumping around from hotels to hotels, to take it
Gotta
out the safe
remember. Yeah. Yeah.
because we changed rooms in a hotel in Dubai once and we forgot and left it in the safe. Thank goodness it was in the same hotel so we could go
Mm-hmm.
back and get it. But that's my fear when I'm moving around a lot on the trip is that I'm going to forget and leave it in the safe. But that's if we're staying like at a hotel, like
Right.
5 days in a hotel, we leave it
Mm-hmm.
in the safe
Hmm.
usually.
Hmm.
But
Hmm.
we always have a picture of our passport that we have in our like phone or email that you can
Sure.
access it, and we send it to somebody back home just in case like your phone gets stolen, your bag gets stolen, that you have some way to access a picture of your passport if you have to
Right.
go to the embassy.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah,
Right.
so
Wow.
that's good to have.
Well, Nadine, I mean, we could talk for a
Yeah.
much longer time, but I want people, our two Soka listeners, to know where they can find you
Sure,
online
sure.
and where they can book a trip. What trips do you
Yes,
have coming up? What trips do you have
yes.
coming up?
So we're doing Northern Italy in October. That's October 3rd to 13th. So it's again like a road trip through Northern Italy. This is like highly focused on food and wine. It's
Hmm.
like
Mm.
going truffle hunting in Alba, prosecco tasting, pasta making workshop. So it's
That
all the
sounds
things
good.
in
Hmm.
Northern Italy, wine tasting, of course.
Hmm.
So we're going from Milan all the way to Venice. So we start
Hmm.
in Milan and in Venice. So that's in October. So my website is thesophisticatedlife.com. So it's easy. You'll see
Hmm.
all the trips there under culinary travels or travel with me. So they can check those out. And on Instagram, at the Sophist Life. That's the same on Twitter. And on Facebook, the Sophisticated Life. So
Okay.
it's easy.
All right.
Right.
Um,
Yeah.
Well, I
thank
can
you.
tell you, I just want to say, Nadine, I do follow you. I see what
Oh,
you're doing,
thank
and it is
you.
so much fun to watch
Right.
and
Oh,
exciting
thank
to
you.
see. And you put these video clips together like you are a spokesperson for every country you go to,
Ah,
because it's like, okay, when am I booking my trip to
Right.
Morocco? When
Right.
am I going here? Because if I can do it like
thank
Nadine
you.
does it, it's going to be amazing. So
And
thank you for
let's
sharing
Oh,
that.
yeah, and let's not forget you have travel guides. Don't you sell
I
travel guides?
do.
Yeah.
Yes, so on Amazon, I have 3 travel guide ebooks. So
Mhm.
they're like travel destination guides. So like what to do for 3 days in Paris, what to do if you go to South Africa. And then one is like food and wine guides actually. So it tells you what to eat and drink in different countries that you go to. And one is on USA wine regions. So
Okay.
the idea of that one is like if you're in Virginia or if you're in California, what the
Right.
different wine regions are. So yeah, you
Right.
can find that on Amazon under my
Mm.
name, Nadeen, last name White, just like the color. Yep.
Okay.
Oh, that's
All right.
amazing. Thank you
All
so
right.
much for being with us,
Thank
Nadine.
you.
Oh, thank you for having me.
And I love it when it's all Jamaicans up in the house. I do.
Booyaka, booyaka.
Yes, yes. So thank you so much for being on the show. And
Of
to the listeners,
course.
we hope this has kind of given you a
Inspired.
sampler and
Uh,
inspired you to make that booking and get out and
Yes,
travel and just experience the world, become a world citizen.
Right, right.
absolutely, absolutely. Well, thanks again for having me. I love your podcast.
Soka family, thank you so much for joining us on this edition of Two Sisters of a Certain Age Conversations with a Therapist and a Doctor. We were thrilled to have my dear friend, Dr. Nadeen White. And we just want you to know that if you love to travel, if you love to get out of your comfort zone,
Mhm.
if you love to experience different food and different people, we
We
can
can
relate.
relate.
We are on Instagram. What is our Instagram? Two Sisters of a Certain Age.
Mhm.
And you can reach out to us at twosokapodcast@gmail.com. Please follow, like, and share. Please, please, please. Thank you so much for joining us, and we'll see you next time.
No longer network.